Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys, based on the time zones you all are coming from. So, guys, before we start with the session, can you all please give me a quick confirmation if you all can see my screen and hear me loud and clear as well? Perfect. Thank you so much for the confirmation, everyone. So, my name is Neeraj Keria, and I've been working in this IT industry for more than 13 years now. So the agenda for today's session, we are going to discuss on what exactly is Azure, its features, the entire platform, the services, what exactly is Power BI, the components of Power BI, Azure Machine Learning, and then we are going to discuss over the hands-on. So if we talk about Azure, then Azure is the second leading platform in the entire globe after AWS because AWS has been on #1 position since its inception back in 2006. And Azure has multiple services under its portfolio. So it has services for computation, networking, database, migration, IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning on databases, on unstructured databases. So there are multiple services offered under Microsoft Azure, almost more than 100 services in different categories that we can choose to get started with. To see the list of all the services offered under Azure, we can refer to the link here, azure.microsoft.com. So here we can refer to this link here, azure.microsoft.com, where we can see the list of all the services offered under this platform, where we can see the services offered under AI/ML, under computation, containers, hybrid solutions, Internet of Things, and we have more than 200 plus services offered under different categories that we can get started with. So AWS currently offers almost 175 services, whereas Azure offers more than 200 services offered under different categories. All right, so Azure, as you know, is one of the leading platforms for cloud computing through which we can choose multiple services and different categories, and then we can get started. So why people prefer Microsoft Azure? Because here we have everything offered on on-demand basis. That means there are no upfront costs here. We have to pay only for the services that we have consumed. That's it. For example, if we have deployed 100 VMs and we have consumed them, let's suppose for 2000 hours, then we had to pay only for those 2000 hours, nothing less, nothing more. If we have a small testing requirement and we have used a server only for 2 hours, we had to pay only for 2 hours, that's it. And we had to pay also based on the configuration of the resources as well. That means if we have used a high-end server having more cores of CPU, more amounts of RAM, and a specific set of processor, then we had to pay for that. And if we are deploying a low scale server, I mean small scale server, then we have to pay accordingly. So it is all based on the requirement, and then we have to pay only based on the amount of services that we have consumed and for the time period we have consumed it. And then it offers abstract resources. That means we can focus only on requirement, not on the hardware specification, as it is already managed by Azure services. We can have the scalability done. That means we can easily scale up and down the resources as per the requirement. And then we can also have the efficiency of experts. That means we can utilize the skills, knowledge, and resources of the experts as per the requirement. Because again, here we only have to worry about making a solution available to everyone. And then we can let the Azure platform to take care of the entire maintenance, deployment of servers, and every other component that needs to be taken care of. And then we have to pay as you consume. That means we have to pay only for the resources and for the time period that we have used it, nothing less, nothing more. All right, so let's move forward. So we had discussed on the Azure platform. So Azure is currently having multiple services offered under its umbrella. As we discussed, we have more than 200 services offered under blockchain, computation, containers, databases, developer tools, DevOps, hybrid, identity, integration, Internet of Things, management and governance, media, mixed reality, mobile applications, networking, security, storage. So there are multiple solutions being offered under Azure that we can choose accordingly. Now, if you talk about Power BI, so our session is focused on Power BI integration with Azure, and Power BI is one of the leading business intelligence tool offered by Microsoft itself. So the concept of business intelligence is something that is alien to few people these days. And with newer tools emerging every day to help solve the crisis of data management, more and more companies are taking up the entire BI tools to solve their problem statements. So Power BI is basically a Microsoft's BI tool, a business intelligence tool, mainly focused on helping us to analyze and visualize the data that we have the access to. So for a simple example, let's say Amazon needs to analyze its sales performance in last 6 months. Then Amazon has its own set of data, and now by using the BI component, they can know which category has been most profitable for them, which one has not performed well, how the users have been segmented, in which category and how has been the preferences. Suppose even in the same category, their brand preference would have been changed. They are seeing a more sales in any of the market and less sales in the market that they expected. So we can use these kind of BI tools to easily create visualization, or we can say a completely make visualized report out of the current data so that we can take actions on it accordingly. All right. And Power BI is one such tool which help us in aggregating, analyzing, and visualizing current data set. So the components of Power BI, if you take a look at, then first of all, we have Power Query. So using Power Query, we can search, access, and transform the entire data set as per the requirement. And then we have Power Pivots, so where we can easily model data into multiple analytical components by using the Power Pivot. And then we have Power View, through which we can analyze, visualize, and display data as an interactive data visualization tool. And then we have Power Map, where we can visualize the data set available in the format of geospatial data. For example, we have the sales data for different cities, for different pin codes, for different countries, and we can plot this kind of data back in our Power Map. And here we can have the support for Power Map, even with the entire big data components where we can visualize it one by one. So next we have Power BI service. So we can share data views and workflows refreshable from on-premise and cloud-based data sources. We can ask questions to and get immediate answers with natural language query. We have data management where we can have periodic data refreshers, which are going to expose tables and views as our data feed to the external consumers. And then we have metadata for facilitated search functionality, where user can easily discover and reuse queries as a part of data catalog. All right, so first of all, before we jump into Azure ML, so first of all, let's see how we can work with Power BI individually so that we have a complete understanding on Power BI first. Now, Power BI is offered as a free tool for the individual users. So we can download the community version of Power BI that we can use for free. So we can refer to this link here for Power called powerbi.microsoft.com, and here we can click on start for free, where we have to enter our own details. And once we enter the details, we will be getting the direct download link that we can use for getting started. So here we can click on Power BI desktop and we can click on download, and then we will be taken to the download section altogether. All right. And once we have the Power BI desktop version downloaded, we can open this up. So here we can refer to Power BI. Now Power BI is one of the easiest platform to get started with. So once we have this one downloaded and then we have opened it up, we can see this dashboard being open in front of us. And first of all, to get started, now this is the entire canvas that we had to work on. So here we can work on the entire data set, and here we have different worksheets, as in we can create multiple worksheets. We can get started here. And then on the right side, we have multiple visualization tool that we can choose based on the data that we have currently selected. So let's open up a sample data with us that we can work on so that we can have a quick insight of what kind of visualization that we can create here. So let's use a sample data set. To get data here, we can click on get data, and here we can choose a source of data. So if we click on more, We have data integration available from multiple platforms. So either we can import a simple CSV Excel file directly, or if we have data stored in a database, we can have the data fetched from multiple data sources, including MySQL, Postgre, Teradata, IBM, Oracle database, Impala, Vertica. So we have multiple integrations available. We can make use of the Power Platform in since these both solutions are offered by Microsoft. We have a direct integration available for the data solutions offered by Microsoft Azure that we can integrate this with. We have multiple offline services available where we can integrate this to Salesforce, to Google Analytics, to Adobe Analytics, to Facebook, to Marketo, MailChimp, LinkedIn, Facebook, Zendesk. We have multiple other solutions integrations available here that we can make use of. Let's say we want to work with the Excel sheet, a simple Excel file that we may have the access to. We can click on Excel, we can click on connect, and here we have to choose the source of the Excel file. So let's say we want to work with a simple financial sample workbook. So here we can open this financial sample workbook, or we can open up the Superstore orders as well. We can use both the data sets. For example, let's say we want to work on Superstore orders. We can click on open. And first of all, this is going to read the data, and this is going to allow us to fetch a portion of the data that we are currently importing, or we can perform multiple ETL activities as well as per the requirement. So let's say here we have two tables. Here we have orders, and whichever table we choose, whichever sheet we choose, we can see a preview of the data available in this sheet. And then we have a people. We can see the data available for people as well. So now let's say if we want to import both or just one, we can choose one. Let's say we want to choose work with this order table, that we can click on load, and now the entire sheet is going to be loaded. All right, so now once the table has been loaded here, we can see all the columns available in the right side. And to visualize the entire data set, we can click on this option which says data. And here we can see that means we can see the entire data set in terms of the entire rows and column that we have currently imported. As you can see, currently there are 51,290 rows available in the current data set that we have imported as a part of our Power BI desktop. Now, once we have imported the entire data set here, we can come back to our visualization screen where we can start creating multiple reports out of it. So first of all, let's say here we want to work on importing city, or we suppose here we want to work on importing the quantity, or let's say we want to see the profit ratio here, right? So here we can see the profit, and now we want to see the order date, as in we want to see the, now we don't want to use this map here, we can remove this. We want to work on the profit and the order date. That means we want to segregate and see how it has been the profit in terms of different year-wise performance. And once we choose any two data set, we can see multiple the best suitable format for this given data set is going to be chosen in terms of visualization. So first of all, we can see the entire bar graph has been chosen, and we can easily increase and decrease the size of the visualization as per the requirement. So we can, suppose here we want to create or we want to focus only on this one for the entire page, and here we can choose entire page, or we want to focus on different components as per requirement. Here we can choose the size accordingly. Means how exactly we want to increase or decrease the size for different parts of visualization. We can choose accordingly. All right. So now let's say here we have in terms of access, here we have year, quarter, and date available. In terms of legend, for example, suppose here we have year, right? Here we have day, here we have, so suppose here we want to visualize this based on, suppose month. Then here we can define, here we can simply cross check. Let's say here we want to see the report based on different months, right? Based on the year and based on, suppose not just based on year, but based on the quarter, as in quarter one, quarter two, quarter three. And then we want to see the entire report based on the month itself instead of quarter. We want to simply segregate them based on month. So we can see which month has performed really well and which month has not been able to set as per the current, or we can say current expectations. We can see the entire report here. And now we want to, now let's say here we want to work on the date hierarchy itself. For example, suppose here we want to work on year, quarter, month. Let's say here we want to display the quarter, right? So here we have this quarter data set here. And now here we want to display another table for quarter. We can choose that. Or suppose here we want to work on this table only. But here we want to make sure, let's say to just to avoid confusion, we can remove this. Now here we can choose this table and now we want to display the variation in terms of year. But again, here we also want to display in the legends here, we want to display the multiple quarter data set as well. For example, we want to display the year-wise data set, but again, here we want to make sure that we are segregating them based on the year-wise performance. For example, now here we have seen that we were earlier projecting the entire data set just in year. That means year-wise performance. And now we want to see the detailed performance in terms of quarter, and again and that too for a different year. So what we can do, let's say here we can keep the under the axis here for the main, we can keep it to here. And now we can expand order data. So in order date we have segregation based on year, quarter, month, and day. Now we want to see a detailed report in terms of quarter. So here we can pick quarter and here we can drop it under legend. So now we can see here we have detailed report on the performance, not just in one quarter, but again in terms of different quarters as well. That means how has been the performance for in 2012 in terms of different quarters, so that we have a better insight how we have performed in which quarter accordingly. And we can see here the entire legend has also been added here for quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four, correct? So we can segregate the entire data set. Plus, let's say here we want to segregate them further. So let's say we want to also showcase the segment as well. Segment also in terms of the legend. For example, segment as in which segment we have spent the most. For example, in which year consumer goods have been sold the most, or the corporate segment has been sold the most, or the home and office has been sold the most. We can define it as a part of segment. So it depends upon us how exactly we are going to map it out, what kind of problem statement we are going to solve. Suppose if a company asks us, okay, what has been the profit distribution for different segments in different quarters of the year? So we can simply use a segment to help them visualize, okay, into now for the consumer products, the worst year was 2012 and the best year was 2015, where the consumer goods were sold the most, correct? And the worst year for the corporate customers, or for the corporate profit, was 2013, or was to sorry what was to 2012 itself, where we saw a profit of almost 84,000, whereas in 2013 we saw a profit of 90,000, and the best year was 2015 itself, and so on. Correct? So here we can quickly visualize the entire report of how has been the entire profit distribution in terms of different segments as well, by quickly showcasing the category report as a part of the requirement. And depending upon data set, here we have multiple integrations available with that we can make use of. For example, say here we want to visualize if we have some kind of geospatial data set. For example, here we can click on add, and here we can visualize the entire geospatial data set as well. For example, let's say here we want to see the profit distribution, and that too based on different cities. So now if we have this kind of data set, and now we can choose how exactly we want to visualize it. So instead of using the bar graph, we have the option for map. Now in map, we have this direct support from ArcGIS map for Power BI, or we can make use of simple maps section available that we can use it for visualization. If we want to use ArcGIS map, then we can simply choose the ArcGIS map, or we can make use of simple map tool offered itself by the Power BI itself. So here we can see here we have plotted the entire report in terms of different cities for the at the global level. We can see the entire data set has been plotted. And now in terms of profit, right? So let's say if you want to see the segment as well. So here we can add segment as a part of the color. So suppose here we can add different colors, different tooltips also added here as a part of segment that we can use it for visualization part. So now we can see here we had different colors defined, right? And we can see the entire in terms of now why because we have added different segments and different colors. So we can see different reports here, right? So here red has been given to consumer, then we have the green given to the home office, and the blue has been given to the corporate as a part of the color segment. So we can simply visualize how exactly the entire distribution has been in different cities all around the globe as a part of the color segment. Or if you want to add this as a part of tooltip, then we can add tooltip as well. Tooltip as in if we hover over the two over different items here, then only we are going to see the detail as a part of tooltip. So we can define it either as a tooltip, or we can define it as a part of the color scheme that we want to visualize. And once we are done, we can simply go to the file section, and here we can save the entire report. We can export this to the PDF as well, or we can generate a complete visualization dashboard where we can click on publish. And then when we simply publish, then we can create a complete dashboard through which the end users, they can interact with the entire data set that we have defined. So that they will be able to interact how the data has been defined, and then they can work accordingly. Now we can see how we can easily integrate the Azure ML Studio with Power BI. So let me showcase you how we can integrate the ML Studio as well. So Azure ML is what? Azure ML is basically useful in making sure that if we want to create a model for testing use case, then we can do that easily by using the ML Studio itself. Now, ML Studio is a really good platform, one of the best services offered by Azure. And we can say that it is even better than any of the cloud computing platforms that we have present currently. So its ML Studio is really easy to use platform through which we can create the entire testing models. We can deploy it right away as per the requirement. We can easily do that. So first of all, to get started, we can start by signing up on Azure platform. Let me showcase you how we can sign up on these. All right, so to get started working on Azure, we can simply click on this link here, which says create free account on top. And once you click on free account, we will be taken to a complete sign up form where we can register. So for signing up on Azure platform, we can click on the link which says free account on the Azure website. And there we have to sign up just like we sign up for any other website, where we can specify the account details. And just like we need to have an active payment method for Netflix and Prime Video, we also need an active payment method for signing up on Azure. And once we sign up, we won't be getting charged once we sign up for an account on AWS. We would be getting $200 of free credit that we can use against our billing for a period of 1 month. And just like we get $300 of credit when we sign up on Google Cloud product, which we can install in 1 year, and in AWS, we get the access to some selective free tier services that we can use under limitation. So same way here, we can also get the access to the services that we can make use of. So you can sign up on the platform. Here you go. And once we log into AWS or to Azure platform, this is the dashboard that we are going to look at. And here we can click on the menu icon where we can see all the resources, resource group, app services, function app, SQL databases, on storage accounts, on virtual networks, Azure Active Directory, monitoring, advisory, security center. We can see the entire report as per the requirement. We can see the entire report. So to get started working on the ML Studio, we can search for a link directly called ML Studio from Azure. So here we can type in as studio.azureml.net, where we can log in via our own Azure account that we have signed up for. Here we can click on sign in. And once we sign into this link, we would be taken to the Azure ML Studio that we can use for getting started with the machine learning models deployment. So in the Azure Machine Learning Model Studio, here we can work on creating multiple experiments. So for example, suppose here we want to work on experiments. We can see these are a list of all the experiments that we have already created. And now we want to work with new one. Then here we can click on create a new assignment. So here we can click on new. And here we can choose what kind of experiment we want to work on. For example, we want to work on the experiment tutorial we want to work on a blank experiment, on dataset processing. So we have multiple templates available that we can choose here. So let's say here we want to work on blank experiment. So here we can click on blank. And here we can simply map out the entire dataset. And here we can create the entire experiment as per the requirement. We can do that directly here. All right, so here we can define the entire output and create the entire testing script so that we can run those testing scripts automatically and that too as quickly as possible. All right. So first of all, we have to work on uploading the current data set as well. So if you do have the access to data set, so here we can refer to save data set where we have my data set. So now currently, let's say we have our data set available for COVID-19 and let's say we want to work on it. So here we can simply import the COVID-19 India.csv, for example. Here we can pick this data set and then we can use this current data set to use or to suppose, let's say, to create a complete model out of it. Now for this, we have to, again, in case we don't have a data set available, and here we can click on samples where we have sample data set already available that we can play around with. Or if we want to work on our own data set, so here we can click on this option, data set. And to start new, then here we can simply click on new. We can choose from a local file. Let's say we have used a local file for the sales data, right? And now we want to create a sales prediction out of it. Then here we can create a model for that sales prediction as well. For example, here we can choose a local file that we want to work with. Let's say here we had the access to that Excel file, correct? To that Excel file, XLS. So where we have the access to this global superstore, we can make use of this data or we can make use of any old data that we may have the access to. So for example, we want to work on this one. So here we can click on upload, open, and then we can click on add. So this is what, okay, we haven't saved that in the CSV file. So let's see if we do have the access CSV that we've already imported as a part of COVID India analysis. Where we have data set for the active COVID patients, for the recovered patients so far. So we can make use of this data for now. Now to work on creating a model out of this current data. So here we can go back to the experiments where we can create our own experiment. So here we can come back to experiments. We can click on new. Here we can click on experiment, not tutorial, on blank experiment. We can have the access to this one, and here we can simply drag and drop it here. Now to see it, now here we can simply click on data set, and here we have visualize. So we can simply get a complete visualization created so we can see how, like, what are different pointers available in this current data, and then how exactly we have to work with these. So let's start again. So first of all, let's say we don't want to use the entire data set available here. We only want to make a selection. So for doing that, we can search for select data set here, and here we have select column. So let's say here we want to be selective in terms of the column that we want to choose. So here we can drag and drop the select part. And now we can define select. Here we can click on launch column selector. So here we can choose which all columns we want to work on. And then we can, now currently we have these different data pointers available. So we have to choose from these data pointers only, that which data pointer we want to work with. So here we can make a selection accordingly. Let's say here we are going to work on the prediction for the survival rate. So let's suppose here we want to work on, here we want to include confirm international. Here we want to confirm the cure, and that's as well as a part of the data pointers that we want to work on. So here we can define the data as well. Now these all columns you want to work on here, and here we can click on select. So again, these different columns have been selected as a part of our model building. Now here we can search for another data pointer here as split. So here we can make use of split. Now we want to split the current data set into equal components here. We want to have the train data and test data defined. So here we can split the entire data into training and test data because we don't use the entire data set. We split the entire data set, and that's how we start working on it. So here we can split the entire data set into one training and the other component to be testing data. So here we can define the fraction with which we want to test here. Let's suppose here we want to make a selection of 75% of the current data set. So here we can define 0.75. That means again, suppose if there are 100 columns, there are 100 different rows here, then 75% of those rows are going to be split. That is what we have currently defined. If you want to make a selection in terms of 50% or 75%, generally we keep it to 75%. So we have a good amount of data that you can use for the training purpose. We can define it. And then if you want to randomize splits, then here we can simply click on randomize splits, or we can keep it to just one. So now we have defined in the splitting data how data is going to be split in 75 and 25%. And here we have defined for 75% for the first component. Here. So here we can define machine learning. So here we can search for machine learning algorithms, and there are multiple machine learning algorithms available here. So let's say here we are going to make use of, now here we can make use of, let's say, which model shall we select? So here we can make use of, let's suppose two class decision forest. So here we have two class decision jungle, and this one is forest. So here we can simply drag and drop two class decision forest. We can place it here, and then here we can insert the training model as well. So here we have on the machine learning, here we also have train model also available. So here we can also drag and drop the train model. All right, so here we can split the entire data set and again we can use it for training the model. And then we have decision tree, and here we have decision tree. So basically here we can use a training model here, and then the decision tree we can integrate with this with the entire training model that we can create here. So once we define the entire training, once we have connected the two decision forests with the training model, so again for training model as well, we can simply launch the column selector in terms of which column we want to make use of. So here we have rules, and here we have defined the column names. If we want to include the column names, or let's suppose here we want to search for the confirmed national. Here we want to search for not just for confirmed, the number of patients cured, deaths, and the time frame as well. So we can remove the confirmed national. So here we can choose these pointers, click on select. Or suppose here we want to make use of the confirm as a main parameter. We can choose confirm, we can select, and here we can simply define the score model. So here we can search for score model. We can define the score model, and here we are going to test the score model here along with the components that we want to integrate this with. And once we are done, we can simply run it to see. Now, if each and every step is correct, we will be able to see the entire model created one by one. That means currently the entire each and every model statement is currently being executed one by one. And if there are no issues, it is going to be deployed automatically. And now if you want to visualize, and here we can right click on it. Here we can click on score data set, and here we can visualize to simply see the entire score based distribution that has been currently derived for each and every data pointers here to what we have defined. And here we can set up the predictive web services, which is currently recommended. So as you can see here, the entire model is going to be defined and deployed for creating the entire predictive experiment. So the entire experiment is currently being deployed automatically. And same way we can integrate this entire component by taking care of a simple R script back in Power BI, through which we now using that R script we can easily create the deployment and have it done. Thank you so much for joining.